Hi everybody, this is Raw5069 with Take the Red Pill. I'm responding to Raw5069 video dated the 9th of February. So hopefully you did see my first video that I spoke a little bit, in which case you'll understand that this is a continuation. Now, Raw, again, I hope you don't mind my shortening up your name, excuse me. Here's one of the questions I have. If God is Jesus and they killed God, actually, you know, excuse me, I'm sorry, I'm going to do a little differently. Because I said I'm going to use either God or Jesus, so I'm just going to use the word God. I'm not going to even say the word Jesus. Because it seems almost like from your statements, they're both the same. So, here's a question I have. How can God be killed? I mean, you mentioned that He came on the cross and He died for us, sacrificed Himself, so He can forgive us. So let me try to get this straight. God came, He made Himself born, He made sure that a woman was pregnant, you know, by His doing, you know, whether I'm not saying He, you know, stuffed or anything like that, but God made sure that a woman was pregnant, by Him somehow, and He was born, God made Himself born into the world through a woman. God grew up and then He sacrificed Himself so that way He can forgive the world. Do you understand the dilemma here? Do you understand the fallacy in that logic? Because if God in the very beginning said, "Let there be light," and there was light, if He spoke things into being, why would He need to sit there and go through that whole process to forgive the world? Why couldn't He just say, you know something? I forgive you guys. Let's start over. Let's start fresh. Just like friends do a lot of times, or you know, relatives. You know, they get into arguments. They don't like anything, and then you know something, because they cannot come to terms with each other. They say, you know something? Let's squash the past. Let's just start fresh. You know, I love you. Let's just squash this. Why couldn't that happen? Versus going through that whole exercise. And here's the one thing I want you to understand. You mentioned something about, you know, my pride is what's stopping me from receiving the gift. I can tell you right now, it's not pride at all. Pride has nothing to do with it. Again, I'm looking at this from a logic perspective, and you know, analyzing things and saying and seeing things that just don't make sense. They don't add up at all. And this is not something where, you know, anybody needs to do a deep analysis. Anybody can look at these things, put them side by side next to each other and say, you know something, this does not match up with this. Anybody can do it. I see that a lot of people don't do that, and that's fine. And that's because it seems as though a lot of people go into reading the Bible before they open it up, presupposing that everything in there is true. Sorry. You know, I don't ever go into any situation, whether it's reading a book or whatever else, presupposing that everything in there is factual. I just don't do that. I'm not an idiot. Because now my bias is set. And when people actually believe something, especially without proof, then you stop seeking for the truth. That's just the way it happens. Now, on the whole thing with the story of Nicodemus, I already read that. I already know the way he came up, and you know, it does. I know the story in the Bible how he came up to Jesus, and you know, and Jesus told him, "Hey, look, you know, you gotta be born of the Spirit, not of the flesh." Okay, I get that. But speaking of that, you mentioned something about Adam and Eve. You said the day that they will eat the fruit, they shall surely die. Now, here's the one thing that was a little interesting to me. You said it was a physical death, and most importantly, spiritual death. Now, here's the thing. On the spiritual portion of it, what verses? I mean, and I would like to see it. What verses in the Bible support that? Because I've read the Bible. You are correct about one thing. I have read the Bible, and I've read especially the New Testament, because a lot of theists that I've spoken with, you know, when I say, well, okay, well, how about this in the Old Testament? They say, oh, it doesn't count, it doesn't matter. Jesus came in, like, wiped that away, and you know, this is the New Testament. Well, here's the funny thing about that, and I'm going a little bit off track a little bit, but bear with me. Number one, if you're going to dismiss the Old Testament that way, then I guess we might as well dismiss not just the 10 Commandments, because a lot of people, there are a lot of theists who don't know this. There weren't just only 10 Commandments. There were 613 in all. So you might as well dismiss all those commandments. So the whole thing of you shall not lie, you shall not steal, you shall not covet your neighbor's wife, all that stuff, out the window. If that's the stance that, oh well, Jesus, you know, Jesus came in, you know, all that stuff is, the Old Testament is Old Testament. The second thing is, Jesus with his own mouth, he did say, I did not come to destroy the law. I did not come to abolish it, but to fulfill it. Which law was he talking about? The law of Moses. And within the law of Moses, the commandments were part of that. So that's another topic. Let me get back to what we're talking about. Here's the thing, right? If oh yeah, and the thing on Adam and Eve. Okay, you said it was a physical death. More importantly, it was a spiritual death. So again, the spiritual portion of it, I've seen nothing to support that. Now, again, on the physical aspect of it, which you said with your mouth that it was a physical death. Again, there's a discrepancy there, because he said, "Of the day you eat it, you shall surely die." Of the day. That bottom line, that means the day that you eat this, you're gonna die. And since you said it was a physical death also, well, guess what? There's a discrepancy, because they didn't die that day. They were simply kicked out. And on top of it, Adam lived to be another 930 years old, because he had Seth and, you know, all the other kids after that. So that's another topic again that we can readdress a little bit further down the line. But I just wanted to point that one out there. I'm doing good on time. Here's the question also. If God was all-knowing and he knew these things were going to happen, what kind of sense does that make that he's going to set these things in place? Let's say Adam and Eve for a second. He's going to put that tree right in the middle of the garden so they can eat it. Knowing good and well they're going to eat it, so he can set the stage to come down on earth and sacrifice himself and go through the whole of 9 yards. Where is the logical sense in that? Wouldn't it have been easier to just simply say, here's how I'm going to create you, here's what you're going to do, and that's the way it's going to be? I mean, I would think, one would think anyway, that from a perfect being, something perfect will come forth, not something flawed. And honestly, humans have been proven to be flawed. We sin every day, we make mistakes. We're not perfect. Yet you would think again that something perfect, perfect deity, would have created something perfectly, so that way none of this supposedly mess that became because of the original sin would have happened. And the other thing also is, again, the whole thing of, you know, God dying on the cross. If he knew all this, why did he have to go through that exercise? Again, hopefully this is something that we will be able to touch on and explore a little bit deeper. You mentioned something also. You said before we come out the womb, we don't hear, we don't speak. I mean, excuse me, we can't hear, we can't see. You know, we don't know anything. And you said it's when we come out the womb that we actually experience things. I will have to make a slight correction on that. It has been proven already that when babies are in the womb, they can hear. You ask any doctor, they will tell you that. Now, as for them seeing, well, here's the thing. I do know, because I have seen the MRIs. Not MRIs. I have seen the oh my goodness. You guys know what I'm talking about. When they take a picture of the baby in the, you know, while it's in the stomach. I have seen those photos where the baby's eyes were actually open. I have seen that. Now, as to whether or not they can actually see, you know, blurry stuff, almost like when you're looking underwater, things are blurry, but you can still see things. I really don't know. However, they do open their eyes while they're in the womb. So there's a possibility that they can see. This is something, of course, I will explore myself, just out of curiosity. But anyway, like I said, you know, so bottom line, what I'm saying is that that analogy is not too strong with what you were, you know, saying. So here's, okay, stage fell. Okay. Now, again, like I said, in stating that you met Jesus, I don't know, what did you, really, honestly, and I'm not, this is not a joke, I really want to know, what did you feel? If you did not see anything, what is it that you felt? You also said that he spoke to you. Okay, again, what did you hear? If he spoke to you, did you hear a voice? What was the voice like? Was it a deep rumbling voice? Was it a soft-spoken voice? Was the voice similar to mine? Was it similar to yours? Was it similar to somebody else that you've heard before? Because I'm sure by now, both of our ages, we've heard many men talk. Or, even possibly, I don't want to assume things, was it more like a feminine voice? I mean, what did you hear? You know, these are things I'd like to know. Now, here's the thing. Because you claim that you experience these things, it doesn't mean that it actually happened or that it's real. One thing I want to just keep in mind, is a lot of times we can, and if you took psychology, this is something that you will know. And a lot of people just know this, and even if they didn't take psychology. A lot of times when we want to believe something really, really strongly, we can sit there and we can meditate on it or ponder upon it, and we will start seeing, hearing, or even feeling some of these things. Let's take for example somebody who's and this is not hypochondriac. Hypochondriac is somebody who's like, they sneeze, all of a sudden, they got, they're gonna die of the disease. That's a hypochondriac. There's another thing called a psychosomatic disorder. When, for example, somebody, they make themselves think all the time, like, oh my God, I'm sick all the time. They actually have the symptoms of being sick, but when examined by a doctor, absolutely nothing wrong with them. It's just that their mind makes them start going through the symptoms of things. So I'm not accusing you of being delusional, far from it. But what I'm saying is, sometimes when people want to believe things strongly and so badly, they start, when people believe their own stuff, sometimes, things like that can happen. So, just because somebody experienced something, that doesn't mean that it's proof that something actually did really happen. Further investigation would have to be conducted to verify those. Here's the other thing. I mean, especially the claim of you saying that you spoke with God or you spoke with Jesus. Again, Jesus has been dead for years. Or this is the year 2013. He's been dead for over a century, over 100 years. Heck, he's been dead for over 1,000 years. I mean, a little bit over 2,000 probably, close to it anyway. So, how is it that a dead man can speak from the grave? How is it that a dead body is now able to sit there and come to you and start talking? And again, the extraordinary claim of, God, God, speaking again. I'd like to hear an explanation on that, because I'd like to know, how is this possible? How does that work? And you had mentioned something about you have to be born of the Spirit. Let's be real about something. If God is really all that powerful, regardless of whether you're born or whatever the case is, there's things that He can do. Again, there are things that He can do to just really squash all that noise. You mentioned something of the effect of like, okay, well, He already did come down and did all that, showed Himself, and then He got killed. If God got killed, if we as humans were able to kill God, then how in the world are we worshiping something that we were able to destroy? Where's the logic and sense in that? Here's the thing. If you're talking about things that are written in the book, again, these are just claims. And claims are claims. And the evidence for the claims will stand outside of the claims, not within the claims. Because if you're using, let's say, the Bible, and you're saying, well, God said this is true, it's in the Bible, and I believe it because God said it's true. I mean, that's just circular reasoning. That's all it is. And you're not proving anything. You're just simply restating what is it that you believe or whatever that you read. So anyway, Raw, again, I want to thank you for the conversation that we're able to have. And I'm sure we'll be dialoguing with each other back and forth. So until next time, this is Raw5069 with Take the Red Pill.